we need to reform entitlement spending. Social Security, Medicare are I'm going to take 30 seconds just to say one thing that people need to hear. Seniors are overrepresented in the top income quintile. Seniors are overrepresented in the top income quintile. It doesn't mean that every senior is rich, but seniors are overrepresented in the top income quintile, which means that these two programs are fundamentally unfair. They are a transfer of wealth from the relatively young and poor to the relatively old and wealthy. This needs to change. This is why I am profoundly against reforming these programs through taxes that will fall yet again on younger generation. We need to cut spending on those who can afford it the most. That's what we need to do. This is reforming these two programs is the way where you do successful reduction of debt to GDP ratio. This is the way you put us back on track. This is the way where you restore trust, tolerance, and peace for this country. And this is the way we fulfill the American dream. Thank you.
So let's have a seat.
Oh, and I did it only with like 1 minute more.
Wow, the audio crew was really, really upset by your comments. Goodness. So thank you so much, Veronique. We're so grateful to have you here. And this is, first of all, you're a tremendous draw. This is the biggest crowd that we've ever had. So I'm grateful that we have a receptive audience that wants to hear this story. And I think that really speaks to the character of this audience. Yes. This is a group that really loves this community, cares about this community, is working tirelessly to try and provide opportunity and human flourishing for this generation and the next. And so thank you. We're grateful to have you here as part of this. So real quick, obviously you're the chair of political economy at George Mason. What is political economy?
It's a good question. I've been asking that myself. So I think we're Mercatus and GMU, the econ department, we're more than just economists. We try to we come from a tradition that thinks that actually, political economy or economics is actually grounded in something that is more than just pure economic thinking. We come from a tradition of Austrian economics, which is absorbed a lot in neoclassical economics, of course. We do a lot of public choice economics. Basically, we just believe that politicians have been romanticized, and that politicians are as self-serving as any one of us.
Really?
They're all sinners, yeah. And we
as
care
any of us,
about
by the way,
history.
as self-serving as any of us. Notice that caveat.
Yeah, well, I mean, like us, the little people, right?
Yeah.
And we care about philosophy. We care about all sorts of things that make more than just economics.
Awesome. So, is this a political economy problem, a public choice problem that we're confronting? And so, what does that mean? So, what are the lessons of public choice theory and political economy for this particular challenge?
The debt problem.
Yeah.
So the economy, the debt problem is one that is a pure product of special interests getting their ways at the expense of. Because there's the interest group that are going to benefit from these programs have an incentives to go and lobby the government to get more of the stuff they want, and the people who are going to pay for these programs usually are the unseen victims. They're not just the unseen victims, but they actually sometimes don't even know that they're the victims of the consequences and distortion created by these programs, and they don't have the incentives to actually gather and go fight for it. So we have a special interest problem that has led us to this moment. Incentives within government is to cater to those special interests rather than actually look at the unseen victims. of these programs. And unfortunately, it makes it extremely hard to reform. And we see it, I told you that we know exactly how to reduce the debt to GDP ratio, what kind of fiscal adjustment packages are actually the one that lead to the result that you want. Unfortunately, of all the 180 cases of fiscal adjustment that have been studied, 20% failed because they go the other way. And that's in part because the same special interests that got us here in the first place are also the one picking the solution that will reform these programs. And the shortcut of this is like seniors vote.
I also want to share with the audience that you actually have 2 daughters, both of which are studying economics. So I think there's a really interesting you have a very interesting multi-generational lens in that sense. But what are dinner table conversations like in the de Rugy house?
Doesn't the government sucks? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. It's funny because when they were little, we weren't talking a ton about this. We were talking about all sorts of things, and but there is now, so my daughters are so much better than I am. They're smarter and they're better economists than I am. And so it's really kind of interesting, the conversation that we have where they tell me a lot of what they learn. And I listen, actually, believe it or not, for the queen of talking. I actually listen a lot because I learn a ton from their thinking in economics and the things that they learn, and to see the excitement for them. And very often they come and they ask me, do you know what's the best reading to read on this particular topic? My daughter last year was doing an internship, and she was studying the Trump accounts, and I got to kind of give her I had thought a lot, so we had many conversations about that, and then I also got to kind of like point her to a direction where actually kind of some reforms that could be done, like universal savings accounts, which are just much better. It's like a way to remove the double taxation of savings and allow people more flexibility in the way they use it, blah, 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 blah. That stuff.
Yeah, the double taxation of savings. Marie said, isn't that what we talked about last night with our 16-year-old at the dinner?
We actually talk a lot about shoes and vintage clothes too.
Okay. So I guess I think an important question is, does their generation figure this out? Is it what's your best prediction? Do we have to suffer repeated debt defaults in the form of 10% inflation and constantly eroding real wages? Or do you think this next generation makes progress?
So it's interesting because I think my daughters may not be actually quite the right way to kind of figure out what the temperature is out there, in part because they've kind of soaked in this kind of free market tea, like their tea bags and a free market tea or something, their whole life. But what they report from actually their friends, to me, is somewhat worrisome, right? It's like on the left, there's kind of, their friends are becoming more, just even more progressive. And it's often their girlfriends and their guy friends are very tempted by the MAGA side of conservatism. And that is worrisome. But there's actually something that I am somewhat optimistic about. What I told you about the current welfare system being, not welfare, entitlement system, which by the way are not entitlement at all. We call them entitlement, but they're not. If Congress changes the law, your benefits that have been promised just poof, will go away. And see, it's not an entitlement. So it's unfair, and there's a rising acknowledgement that this is a system that is really extremely unfair to younger generation. And that started, I remember when I started saying this back in 2010, right? Do you remember the Occupy Wall Street movement? I was writing things about Occupy AARP, instead. And anyway, no one cared and just thought it was just me being me. But now, actually, a lot of people talk about it, and it's interesting because it's starting to make the round with the younger generation who are starting to be aware that this is something that is unfair to them, and they are starting to pay attention about how this is going to be reformed, when I think they didn't care at all.
Okay. So just to sort of finish off with the time that we have, beyond your daughters, obviously, and the remarkable women that they are, what sort of gives you hope in this realm? Because you're an optimist. You love the United States of America. You're an optimist in the end. So
in the long term, I'm an optimist.
Yeah.
I'm less optimist now than I was, I'd say, a few years. The last 10 years have kind of been like a little, but I remain an optimist because I think there's just nothing like the spirit of this country. I think that the voice that everyone elevates are actually not the voice that represent what truly the American people want. I think at a fundamental level, the American spirit is still very much alive. I think there's much, much less polarization, actually, outside of these very, very vocal people on both sides. And I think that ultimately it will prevail. I also think that there's something in this country that exists nowhere else, and it is kind of the fundamental, there's a culture, it's disappearing a little bit, but it still exists. There is a culture of actually wondering whether the government should be doing something. There's a sense, a profound sense of fairness, belief in individuals, belief in the rule of law, belief in the greatness of this country, and I'm just hoping this will save the day.
That's awesome. So I kind of want to wrap just with your words. This is from your recent essay, The Politics and Policies of Growth, because I think it's really a call to action. And that is, growth is not a luxury or an abstraction. It's a moral obligation. And it's a moral obligation to those with the least power, the fewest assets, and the longest futures. And so that means there's work for us to do. So we're really grateful that that our audience is here and gave Veronique this opportunity to share these thoughts. And I want to thank you so much for enlightening and entertaining us. Thank you.